Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I am your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names and kicking candy ass live and in living color here with you only on Grande's Graveyard. And yes, ladies and gents, tonight we are in the mortuary of Grande's Graveyard. We're in the mausoleum. This is the mausoleum setting of Grande's Graveyard. The white room with the moon is the savior. Cue the white room song. But yeah, no, I am in the mausoleum tonight of Grande's Graveyard, and I am going to be discussing a very fun topic, a first-time topic on Grande's Graveyard, where tonight we take a look at the careers, at the films of the children of the Masters of Horror. Yes, I brought it back for the very first show of the new year, and we'll, of course, wish everybody a happy New Year, if you will, but we've got the Wheel of Torture! Yes, the Wheel of Torture makes an appearance tonight on Grande's Graveyard. Of course, it will also be on next week's show when we discuss box office bombs. The box office bombs will be decided by the randomizer, but tonight, the film from the child of a Master of Horror, respectively, will be decided by the Wheel of Torture. And of course, if I neglected to do so, Happy New Year's to everybody. Happy 2026. I hope you and your families had a safe holiday when the ball dropped. I hope you guys, of course, pigged out, eat out. Of course, maybe a little bit of Twilight Zone goodness in there. The Twilight Zone marathon's been running on a couple of different channels. If you do still have cable, on the Sci-Fi channel is the main primary one, and they're still going right now. They go through New Year's Day itself as well. But of course, I'm off today, I'm off tomorrow, and I am very excited for Grande's Graveyard tonight because this is kind of a fun show. This is a unique show to do. I don't know if anyone's ever really sat down and taken a look at all of the Masters of Horror and their respective spawn and the movies that they would go on to make. And tonight we have 5 different children of Masters of Horror and then 5 different films to discuss. Only one place, only one time, live at 8:05 on Grande's Graveyard. But let's get to the chat. I've been neglecting y'all for far too long. Haddonfield Mascots here. Happy New Year, Grande. Chat, thank you so much, John. Happy New Year to you and your family as well, man. I hope you had an awesome New Year's. Of course, we have Anthony Chabot, I8W. Yo, Happy New Year. I'm still up to 2018 in the memoirs. Anthony, man, Happy New Year to you and your family. I hope you had a safe one. Unfortunate about the Knicks. I was sad about the Knicks. I saw you're a big Knicks guy. So, yeah, no, hopefully we get them next time. But that is neither here nor there. Tonight on the Graveyard, we wish you a brand new Happy New Year. Cheers to another fun year on Grande's Graveyard. 2025 was such a blast. Hoping 2026 is the same here and now. So cheers, everybody, to a awesome new year in 2026. And tonight we're going to kick it off with the Wheel of Torture. So cheers, everybody. I was going to do a Happy Dew Year, but I didn't want to block out the dew for this show. I kind of wanted to just do some water. I played it safe this time, I know. Triple H is in the house. Happy New Year, Grande. Hey, Haddonfield Mascot. Hey, Anthony. Triple H, I hope you had a wonderful Happy New Year with your family. That goes for all of you guys, of course. I know that obviously once I get going, some people will have to say cheers and Happy New Year's and all that stuff. So cheers to you. Absolutely cheers, my friend. But I say let's get this show on the road. Without further ado, let's get this show on the road and let's get out the Wheel of Torture. So like I said, we've got 5 movies from 5 children of each different Master of Horror. I picked 5 different Masters of Horror. Obviously, not all of them were included here, but these were prominent ones that I did want to cover and ones that I think would make for fun conversation / film reviewing, and I think it's going to be a blast. So everybody, I hope you're having a great night here tonight, and we're going to kick this show off. Let's give it a spin. Spin it up. Let's do it. The Wheel of Torture will decide our fate. And first up, looks like it's going to be, oh boy, all right, we're starting this show off hot. It is The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, not the one from 1985 that was directed by Wes Craven. No, this is from 2007, and this was from writer, of course, Wes Craven and his son, Jonathan Craven. Jonathan Craven was the co-writer of this production, of course, this being the sequel to the 2006 remake, which was really well liked. The 2006 remake of The Hills Have Eyes was a very well-received and popular and praised horror remake. Asia comes into the room to direct that one, and I don't mind the movie. I don't hate the movie like some people have inferred that I do. I'm still original truther. I love the original 1977 The Hills Have Eyes. That's one of my all-time favorite exploitation, grindhouse, drive-in horror movies. However, the remake is a solid remake, and as a fan of the original, I don't have any ill will or hatred or anything towards that remake. I just think the original is the superior film. Then, of course, the remake comes out. Alex Aja, I think, did a really good job, of course, of High Tension fame. This was the movie that kind of got him back into the movie picture in America, and he hit a home run, a movie that made a lot of money. And then, of course, they said, hey, let's rush out a sequel. That's what we always do, right? The Saw train was running at this time. Hostel was even sort of a popular thing at this time. Of course, Hostel Part 2 comes out in the same year, 2007. And they got together, of course, father and son. Wes and Jonathan Craven sat down together and wrote the screenplay for this for about a month until they started filmmaking. So this is the one sheet on this list where it's not directed by a son and or daughter of a master of horror. This one was only co-written by a son or daughter of a master of horror, and Jonathan Craven was the one that came in here. Now, of course, Jonathan Craven had written a movie about a decade earlier called Mind Ripper, which is to some known as the unofficial Hills Have Eyes Part 3. It's not a very good movie. He was a co-writer of that one as well, but this was the one I wanted to kind of take a focus on here because it's very interesting, right? It's very interesting in and of the fact that, okay, we look at the successes of time. We look at not just horror filmmakers, but in any sort of form of media, any form of sport, any sort of art. You look at the history of people that try to get into the same business as their respective famous parent. Like, look at, for example, Frank Sinatra Jr. as opposed to Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra Jr. sounds just like him, looks just like him, moves just like him, but it's not the same in the fact that it just never reached the pinnacle of Frank Sinatra Sr. Frank Sinatra Sr. was a megastar. He was everywhere. Whereas Frank Sinatra Jr., yeah, he sold tickets to shows. He sang in some lounges, but it's not the same type of over. It's not the same type of stardom. And that happens sometimes. And sometimes there's the case of the child surpassing what the parent did. Ken Griffey Sr. was a hell of a baseball player, a great baseball player. Ken Griffey Jr. was a once in a lifetime. Ken Griffey Jr. was, I think, the best baseball player to ever live. And sometimes you have that situation where, hey, father surpasses son, or son surpasses the father. And there's kind of all these situations of this. And Jonathan was in the business, but only in a writing capacity. And then, of course, he did go on to direct some music videos. But here, Jonathan Craven took a stab helping his father in co-writing this movie, The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, which we have a brief plot synopsis for. A group of National Guard trainees find themselves battling against a vicious group of mutants on their last day of training in the desert. Yes, The Hills Have Eyes Part 2. This is a weak sequel to me. And I think that there's a lot of different reasons for that. And the writing is actually, unfortunately, one of the reasons that I would absolutely pinpoint and point to when I'm saying that this is a weak sequel to a remake. Now, this was a movie that didn't necessarily bomb, but it didn't necessarily do the money that they wanted, hence why there's no Hills Have Eyes Part 3. There's no second sequel to the 2006 remake. This was it. This was dead and buried. This is, to this date, of course, of recording of the first day of 2026, the very last Hills Have Eyes movie that there has ever been. And there's a reason for that. It's quite bad. Now, for me, if I look at it, 2007, a movie that came out the same exact year that went direct to video, that's a lot better than this and definitely carries some of the same vibes, themes, and exploitative elements. You look at the Wrong Turn series, you look at Wrong Turn 2 Dead End. That, to me, is a much more realized sequel and well-done movie when it comes to doing an exploitative, cannibalistic, deformed people movie. This is very Hollywood eyes to me. And I know there's some things that they tried to push the envelope with, and we'll get into that. But overall, this one just feels very, very gloss to me. And to me, with this type of format, with this type of template and palette, you should be going for as crazy as you can. And there's just really not that element here. And also a thing with this that I feel is missing that really makes it inferior to the original movie. And the reason why I love the original movie is the family aspect of it. We in the original movie, they have all the characters in the hills and they're all named after the planets, right? Mercury, this is Mars. They're communicating on the walkie-talkies, and there's Pluto, and there's Mercury, and there's Mars, and there's Neptune, all these planets of a family that we have. We even at point have the family dinner where Papa Jupiter cuts the scathing promo. I'll eat the brains of your kids. He's getting up into the camera, breaking the fourth wall, shouting, almost cutting a promo at a dead man that he's burned alive, yelling at him that he'll eat his his grandchild. Just that element to me of the original Hills Have Eyes makes it stand out. It makes it a top tier exploitation drive-in horror movie. And that's what's sorely missing here. That is prevalent in a movie like Wrong Turn 2, right? There is the family aspect. We do have the family dinner scene. We do have the father showing the son how to shoot a bow and arrow at these victims. These are things that I think are necessary when we're talking about an exploitation cannibalistic movie. The element of my family versus your family. We're prim proper. We're on the way to see fancy stars and movie cars and all of these things. And that's what we're trying to do. That's the whole element of the original that I love. It's this primitive family, squeaky white clean, versus these people that have been living in the hills since they're born, have been deformed for real, Michael Berryman's character, since they're born. And it's the nice American family that didn't want to kill, but they didn't want to die. And it's what this family will do. What can they take themselves to in order to get out of the situation alive? I love that story. That to me is the story that all of these type of movies should try to tell. This one, just not the same. Not well. I mean, the whole writing premise of it is quite bad. The movie opens up with a woman giving birth to a deformed baby. She's got long toenails, long fingernails. She's clearly been sitting there and not bathed in a long time, I guess 9 months or so. And she gives birth to this baby. The guy pulls it out, then caves her fucking head in, and we get the Hills Have Eyes pro. Okay, interesting start. We see that these guys are maybe kidnapping women in order to breed with them, in order to get more mutated baby/infants, in order to repopulate after the remake of The Hills Have Eyes in 2006, where we saw so many of these mutants get killed by the family. Okay, I don't mind that starting point. Where I have a problem with is they make this sort of almost like a Full Metal Jacket setting. And it's a group of like military trainees, and they're training for some reason in the desert where there was all this horrible activity and all these horrible things happened to these people to get them deformed. And that's where they're training for the day. And of course, the last day of training is when shit hits the fan, and the cannibalistic mutant hillbillies, they come to get these people. They come to try to kill them, and they pick them off systematically one by one as we move along the story. I don't like any of these characters. Like, to me, a big part of this is writing good characters that I want to cheer for to win or either cheer for to lose. And this is a situation where I don't care either way. They're just completely A-cup yitty, flat characters that you do not care about one way or another, and that's a big problem for me. They're hardly memorable. We have the sergeant that's doing his best, Arlie Ermy. You're pathetic, maggot. You're pathetic, scum. He just doesn't have the same intensity, doesn't have the same like oomph to him, and it just really kind of shows. You're just watching this guy like, I Scout's honor. You tried, but yeah, no, you're no Arlie Ermy. It just doesn't really work there. You have some of these other characters. One guy that's always outspoken and speaking against what the grain is going with, and they force him to guard the porta potty. And then what happens? Somebody crawls out of the porta potty, and it's a big shock jump scare moment. Somebody crawling out of the shitter and saying, "You're all gonna die. You're all gonna die." That's the warning that we get in this movie. Somebody crawls out of a fucking shitter to warn the characters that the evil is here and the evil is coming. I just don't. I don't know. I just think that's such a poor, silly thing to do with a movie like this. And here's the thing. There will be people that like this movie. There will be people that they have an audience for this movie. This is, in my opinion, dumb horror that is very well aware of that it's dumb. It knows what it is. It knows it's stupid. And there's always going to be an audience for that. And I'm not even opposed to being an audience for that sometimes. However, what my thing is if I'm not having fun with you, I'll be the first one to tell you that you're dumb fun. It's getting old real quick, and we should shift gears. And this is a movie that never really does that. They try to make these people, they try to make them interesting. It just doesn't ever happen. We have this underground layer of these mutants, and one of them is a babyface. One of them, for some reason, has a heart of gold. He's a cannibal mutant deformed motherfucker with a heart of gold. Why? I don't know. Nobody knows. This fucking guy just has a heart of gold in this fucking cave. I have no unearthly idea why he turned babyface. Like Ruby in the original movie, you saw it. She wanted out. She wanted to get out of town. She wanted to lead a normal life. She knew that sitting in the sun in the middle of the fucking hills in the desert, that was not what life had to offer. She could go out and she could meet people and she could do things. And there was that kind of sign from her character that yes, she could turn because she doesn't want to be one of this family anymore. She wants to leave for greener pastures, right? This guy, he just a fucking dumb idiot. That's all he does. And he's, I'm a good one. And like, buddy, get the fuck out of here. There's no arc to your character. There's no point for me to care why you'd want to help these fucking military motherfuckers. I don't give a shit. You have no oomph or anything to your character that would make me give a fuck or see why you'd want to leave. If he fucking turns on his family, what's going to happen to him? Where the fuck's he going to go? What's he going to do? Go get a job at the fucking local Popeyes? What's this motherfucker going to do? It just didn't make any sense to me why you wouldn't give a character like that you're going to turn from one family to the military side any kind of arc to do so. And that to me is where it really fell flat. I don't really like that character. And then the kills were rather weak. We have one guy jump out, scare a guy. He starts to try to shoot at him. Oh my God, I shot one of my sergeants. I shot the fucking Arlie Ermy wannabe. Oh shit, sorry guy. There's one scene where the guy that accidentally shot him, they're like, oh, we're gonna have you go down the hill. We're gonna have you harnessed and you can scale down the hill. Okay, sure. So it's gonna go bad the minute he starts harnessing down. Somebody throws something to cut the wire, and the guy falls to his death. That's one of the deaths of this movie. There's one idiot character who goes, I'm not going in this underground lair. I'm going to go by myself the other way down this hallway. Buddy, what? Like, to me, this is also a horror movie that gives horror movies a bad name. Like, that's my problem with this particular movie. Like, this is a horror movie where if somebody throws stones and say, oh, hey, I hate horror movies, I can look at them and say, you know what? I can't blame you if this is the movie that you're watching because, yeah, it does make the genre look rather stupid. Purposely so, but at the same time, I can't really defend it. And that hurts because I'm a big horror movie fan. I always want to defend the genre that I love, but this is a movie that makes it hard to do. This guy, he fucking goes away from the group. He's looking outside of a little hole. This cannibal pops up behind him. He looks, I don't know where he's going to jump off to his death. He jumps, grabs the ledge. This guy cuts off his arm and then waves his arm at him as the guy lets off the ledge and falls to his death. Wow, that's a great fucking kill. One guy, he's so upset about this guy turning heel or guy turning babyface in the cannibal family. Oh, hey, he's turning towards us. Great. This is great. He fucking turns to, he rejects this guy, pushes this guy away, and then accidentally blows them up with a bomb that's there. Oh, oops, blows everybody up. Just horrible. And then the movie kind of ends where Michael Bailey Smith makes a return from playing Pluto in the 2006 remake. He's playing a different character here, and it's a 3-on-1, 2 women and 1 guy versus this giant mutant cannibal guy, and they fucking kill him. And that's the end of the day. And they walk out, and it ends exactly like the 2006 remake where, oh, they're watched with the binoculars. There's going to be a third movie. And there never was, spoiler. To me, really weak. It really feels cut, copy, repeat of the same ending, the same kind of type of movie, but you take the family element out of it. The special makeup effects suck in this movie. And I really do think of all of this movie's sins, it is the writing that's number one. If you made this movie and characters that I cared about, maybe I would have had a good time with this and really enjoyed it. But, this was also redemption day for Wes. Wes had made the original Hills of Ice Part 2 and always acknowledged that to be one of, if not his worst pictures. And I figured, okay, hey, he's working with his son. This is going to be very much in the family. Let's go for something that has something to say about family. But no, we get these vanilla military characters that have no personality, no arc, and no fucks given about that we watch for 90 minutes of nonsense. So the Hills Have Eyes Part 2 from 2007, I hate this one. There's a reason there was never a sequel to it. There's a reason that nobody fucking talks about this movie, is because it doesn't deserve to be talked about. It's quite worthless in my humble opinion. And unfortunately for Jonathan Craven, this was the only movie, of course, after Mind Ripper, that he would ever write. He would never go on to write another horror movie again. Never took another stab at it. From what I understand, was very involved with the production, was on set every day with the production, whereas Wes may have just been collecting a paycheck. A lot of people that say that Wes wasn't really there for this. So Jonathan seemed to be the one calling the creative. And to me, when you're doing a movie like this and the creative is no good, you're already off on the wrong foot, and the rest of the movie kind of just follows in suit and kind of crumbles along the way. So that's just my opinion on this one. I do know there are people that like it, to each their own. This is not one I like, but let's see what y'all have to say in the chat if anyone has opinion on this one. Let's see. We have Mateo here. Ciao, Mateo. Happy New Year, Grande. Passing by just to to hackle Asia Argento. I will watch it later so I can skip the Asia. Jokes aside, happy 2026 to everybody. Mateo, my friend, happy 2026 to you and your family. Yes, Asia Argento does make an entry here, and I would love to know Mateo's thoughts on that movie. I really would. I don't think he'd ever watch it because I think he's smarter than that. But at the same time, I would love to see Mateo's fucking review of The Heart is Deceitful Above All Things. AJ Zitro's in the house. Happy New Year, my friend. How dare you cover that beautiful chestnut hair with a Knicks cap? Well, it's a little chilly here, and it's the Grande's mausoleum. It's a little fucking cold, so I do want to keep some headwear, although I do short sleeves, so I defeat my own purpose. We have Slasher Fred in the house. Happy New Year, my friend. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but in the early 2000s, both Wes and John had worked on a TV thriller called The Shoot Divas, Don't They, with Jennifer Beal, where a woman is obsessed with a singer. I've not seen that. That's interesting call there. I'll have to take a look into that. Well, Nancy Sinatra sang one of the hittest songs, These Boots Are Made for Walking. And that's right. Yeah, no, listen, there's always exceptions to rules. There's always certain cases where, child surpasses the parent artist, whatever. That definitely happens. And there are points where they live up to it. But at the same time, you look at Jonathan Craven, he was in the film business here, he was in the film business there, but it wasn't made for him. Like, to me, when I look at Wes, and what made Wes great was a lot of it was the writing, right? He was a great creative. He created Freddy Krueger. He created the heel characters in The Hills Have Eyes. And of course, the Krug Company in The Last House on the Left, and The People Under the Stairs and Mommy and Daddy, Shocker and Horace Pinker. He was a great creative, Wes Craven. I think a big part of his element was all of the ideas that he came up with. And I know, of course, the one of the bigger ones is always mentioned is Scream, and he wasn't the creative there. But to me, what to 29 years later, almost 30 years later this year technically, but at the end of the year, just like me, you look at Scream, and I always point to that finale where he went off the script to make Stu Macher mean more with Matthew Lillard's character. A lot of people don't know that. There's the whole scene where Billy Loomis, of course, Skeet Ulrich, he gives his unveil and says, hey, your slut mother was fucking my father across town. That's why I'm doing this. That's what I got my vengeance for. And there's a quick shot that Wes calls to go to Stu Macher, Matthew Lillard, and Stu didn't know. He didn't even know because he said, wait a minute, what is his fucking motive? And they were like, oh, well, it's not in the script. He's just doing it. And he's like, wait a minute, we have to do something with that. And in that one camera shade to go to Stu Macher, you made his character mean oh so more. That's the brilliance of Wes Craven. Don't fucking throw that guy away. That guy matters too. And I think that, to me, is the main element that's missing in a movie like this that's written by Wes and Jonathan. So Wes is not forgiven here either. This is not a great movie, and Wes was involved, but it really, really looks like from the forefront that Wes may have just put his fucking name on it. It may be like a Good Will Hunting situation where Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, like Matt Damon probably was the one that wrote most of that, and Ben Affleck just, added a fucking belch or something. Joe Hill has also followed her father. So yes, and Joe Hill has had tremendous success. Joe Hill is a really, really good writer, in my opinion. Cody Snyder 90, dude, man, welcome to the graveyard. Happy New Year, my friend. Love the remake, but prefer the original. I'm in the same boat as you. Happy New Year, everyone. Cal L, what's going on, my friend? Saving the Daily Planet, I hope. Grande, what up? Every time I see Grande live, I want a burrito. Well, hey, that's a first that I've ever been told that, but I hope you do get your burrito fix on. Pathogens make that shit stink. I learned that in the sequel to the remake. Yeah, it's really not well done. This movie also has the late Lee Thompson Young. Yes, may he rest in peace. He is one of the soldiers in this, and he dies in the movie. I think he gets like just blood loss. There's a point where he gets wounded and he eventually bleeds out. But yeah, no, that's a sad, sad story. I saw him and I recognized him he was on a show called Rizzoli and Isles that my grandmother was a huge fan of. Had all the box sets and episodes and seasons and things. And he was a very reoccurring character on that show. It was really, really well liked by my grandmother, and she was devastated the day he unfortunately passed. So may he rest in peace. That's I did notice that when I watched the movie, and I was like, oh man, what a shame. Give it up for Tina Romero, Queens of the Dead, daughter of George A. Romero. Well, extra Trade Light 903. That's a first name in Grande's graveyard. We're not talking about Tina Romero tonight. We're talking about the son. We're talking about George C. Romero. Yes, George C. Romero makes this list here tonight, and we'll be discussing his film Staunton Hill. I've never seen this one. In No Rush. Yeah, no, you're not missing anything, buddy. You are truly not missing anything. I promise you, this is definitely one of the weaker ones. Probably the second weakest movie we'll be discussing here tonight. But with that said, We go back to the wheel of torture. Let's remove that one. And now we spin it up. Who is next on the chopping block, Sheps? Oh, Mateo, I think you're going to get it. I think you're going to get it right here, my friend. I know you've left us, but it looks like we have a winner. Yes, the next movie on our list is, of course, from the year 2004. The next movie on our list is not from a son, but from a daughter of the maestro, daughter of course, one Dario Argento, Asia Argento, and her film here from the year 2004. The Heart is Deceitful Above All Things. Brief plot synopsis for this one. 7-year-old Jeremiah is pulled from his foster home and thrown into a troubled life on the road with his teenage mother, Sarah. Yes. Wow. This is, I will say, of all the movies I watched for show prep this week, and there was some disturbing shit I watched this week, this one takes the cake for easily the most single disturbing movie that I watched for the show this week, bar none. This is a disturbing picture that I do not recommend for the faint of heart. You know, no pun intended, the heart is deceitful above all things. But this is a movie that if you cannot handle crazy extreme cinema, you should never, ever, ever watch this, because this is absolutely one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen. And of course, it's written and directed by Asia Argento, who had starred in numerous movies, of course, made by her father Dario, the master of horror cinema. One of, if not my favorite director that's ever lived is Dario Argento. Suspiria and Phenomena and Deep Red, Profondo Rosso, The Bird of the Crystal Plumage. So many great, great movies that he had made over the years. And she starred in some of them, right? Trauma from 93, Stendhal Syndrome from 96, The Phantom of the Opera from 98. Don't watch that one. But he worked a lot with Aja before and after this. And this was around the time where Aja really wanted to see what she had and if she could do filmmaking like her father. She showed and proved that she could act in movies like Stendhal. She's the best thing in the Stendhal Syndrome. I think she's unbelievable talent acting-wise in that movie. She just shows every single bit of it. And amongst other movies that she didn't even do with her father, right? She did quite a few movies with Abel Ferrara that are really, really good, well done. And I think she's a good acting talent. But of course, in 2000, the year 2000, she made this movie called Scarlet Diva, which unfortunately leaves a little bit to be desired from the direction/writing department. She also stars in that movie, and she does star in this one too. That was not the greatest directorial debut. This one, however, I do see a lot of promise, and I do think is actually a very competently made picture overall. I think this is a good movie. It's just unfortunate that it's so fucking crazy, shocking, and disturbing that I can't really recommend it for everybody, and I will tell you why. So the story goes, we follow the child of Asia Argento's character, who, of course, has been living in a foster home. He's pulled out at the age of 7, and he goes home to live with Aja, who is his mother. And, of course, the actor that's playing the son at first is, of course, this guy by the name of Jimmy Bennett. And if you know any history about Asia Argento, you know something about Jimmy Bennett, and we'll get into all that too. But it's at first played by Jimmy Bennett for the half of the movie, and then the latter half of the movie, it's played by the Sprouse twins, Cole and Dylan Sprouse, who you may remember from movies like Big Daddy. You may remember from movies like or TV shows like The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. They were the twins on that show, so they play the older version of Jeremiah, the character in the movie. We watch as this kid, who, of course, is brought home by Asia Argento, is basically tortured and abused throughout 90 minutes. I mean, this is basically 90 minutes of child abuse, the movie. That's all this really is. And it is as disturbing as it sounds. This kid comes home and we watch Aja try to win him over, and she's super trashy and her makeup's all destroyed and disheveled. Her apartment is grody. She's in his face. Oh, hey, honey, how'd you like me to make you some dinner? And she gets all up in his face. And she does a lot of really good, uncomfortable close-up shots that are just ugly and uncomfortable. And you're like, oh, man, get out of my face. Like, a lot of this movie has that. They do these great close-ups that make you just feel so dirty and grimy. Like, this is a movie that you need to take a shower after you watch it. It's just so fucking dirty. She makes him this disgusting spaghetti-o dinner, gives it to him on a paper plate, and you get an idea that this is really hell on earth for this kid, who goes on to see this mother who lives this wild life on the road, doing drugs, drinking alcohol, sleeping with a different guy every single night, until she does bring one home who's played by none other than Kip Perdue. And if you know actors, the amount of actors that are in this movie is absolutely crazy, because it doesn't just stop with Kip Perdue. Kip Perdue comes home, he sleeps with Asia Argento, and the kid is peeking at one point, so he comes out and says, "Get on the couch, son." he kind of gets the kid on the couch and starts beating the kid with a belt as Asia watches and smiles. It's not a situation of stop hitting my kid. She's enjoying watching this stranger beat her son up with a fucking leather belt. Really disturbing. She at one point brings home Jeremy Renner, who's in this movie. Dahmer himself, just a couple of years after that. Jeremy Renner comes home with her, and she tells the kid, fend for yourself. I've left your crap singles in the microwave. I'm going out with him. We're going to Atlantic City. And Jeremy Renner and her flee and just leave this kid there with only thing to eat is American cheese in the microwave. That's the Kraft single. So you see him at points how he lives day in, day out life. He takes a couple bites of the cheese, and that's all he eats for the day. As he sits in his house, watches television, looks out the window, and is starving while his mother is away on this Atlantic City trip with her beau, only to have Jeremy Renner come back, and he's all distraught. She left me. I'm out of money. She left me. She used me. She left me for nothing. And Jeremy Renner's all distraught and sad, and the kid is like, I'm really sorry she did that to you. And you see Jeremy Renner literally, and this is, again, not for the faint of heart, Jeremy Renner decides to sexually assault this child, and it is absolutely disturbing, and you're like, holy shit, what the fuck are we doing here? And then there's a really interesting sequence where we watch as this kid gets transported to the hospital, as we get a very good idea that he may have been sodomized, and he goes to this hospital. It is really fucking crazy, where you're just like, oh my God. And who else, but as he gets out of the hospital, right, he's in a psychiatric place, who else would be the therapist but Winona Ryder? Just random. Like, everybody in this movie, it's like, how many good actors did you get? It's almost like she called in a favor or had been in the Hollywood scene for enough time now to really get to know some of these people. And, hey, can you do me a favor? Hey, can you do me a favor? Hey, can you do me a favor? And you'll see a ton of fucking people in this where you're like, how in the hell did they get this person and this person? And another one is Winona Ryder as this over-the-top, obnoxious psychiatrist who keeps trying to get the kid to say, you need to say one thing, honey. It's not your fault. Just tell me it's not your fault. That's what I want you to tell me. And the kid is just fucking doomed. He's like totally mind warped and fucked and destroyed and disheveled. And she's in his face telling him, you have to say it. You have to say it. Just waving a little doll in his face. And you can see that he's lost part of the person that he used to be. And he eventually just repeats it to her like a zombie, like an android or something. He just repeats, it's not my fault. And she goes, great, I'm done here. We can let this kid go. And where else would she go but to, of course, Asia Argento's parents' house? The grandparents take him in, and it's none other. And this was absolutely fucking crazy when you see it. You'll never believe who else is in this movie. Peter Fonda is the grandfather in this. Holy shit, Peter Fonda is the grandpa, and they're in this crazy big mansion of all these kids, and they're all like religious nuts. And he's verbally and physically assaulting all of these kids in the house, and it just keeps escalating. It just keeps getting more and more fucked up as you watch this movie, and you keep seeing these like A-list actors pop up, like, oh, hey, Peter Fonda, what the fuck? You get an idea though when he's in the house of Peter Fonda of the pack style and the backstory of Asia, right? This was a girl that grew up in a very big religious household, and then, of course, seemingly rebelled against it. I don't want to be a part of your religion. I don't want to be a part of your God. I don't want to go to your churches and wear these closed-toe shoes. I want to go out. I want to party. I want to celebrate. I want to do drugs. I want to drink. I want to have, intercourse with people that obviously are not the best kind of people, but just to say, fuck you, just to spite you, that's what I'm going to do. And that's the life she goes to lead. Of course, Jimmy Bennett is caught in the middle of seeing this through the eyes of a child and getting physically abused for not going along with God or not knowing a Bible passage and things like this. And it's around this time where they do the bait and switch with the Sprouse twins. You see he's gotten a little older, and Aja comes back to get him. And then the movie kind of plays out from there. It's just more and more crazy antics as the movie plays out. And we see, like I said, tons more actors. Jeremy Sisto, Michael Pitt is in there. Fucking Marilyn Manson makes an appearance in this movie. You literally have like one of the most odd casts that I've ever seen in a movie in my life. But I do think, for what it's worth, it's really well done. Now, is it trying to be fucked up? Yes. Is it maybe trying a little too hard to be fucked up? Perhaps the answer is yes, but I think at the same time, I appreciate that Aja had something to say and was effective in so saying it. This is a movie that does feel uncomfortable. You do feel disgusted in what you're watching. And that is the intent. And I think that it has a lot to say about childhood. It has a lot to say about rebelling against the childhood that you don't want to live. And I know that a lot of people have criticized Dario over the years. Well, hey, why would you have your daughter naked in your movies. Isn't that weird? Isn't that a little fucked up? And Dario's always said, well, it's just my daughter. Like, it's just business. It's just movies. And she's also echoed that too. But there are times in the past where she also said, where if you think about it, it kind of is fucked up. Why is he having me do these things? Why are we working in that type of environment? And I understand both sides of that. I do. And I think that a lot of this is sort of a jab at that. I do think a lot of this is like, why would you make me do that? And I think this is a movie that kind of cries for help in and of that. And it's really, like I said, it's effective in what it does. I think it's competently made. I actually think Asia should have kept going in the film career of directing, because I think this was something where she was really onto something here. And I think that the scope of this, while Dario's movies are all beautiful and pretty and colorful and have this great music from Claudio Simonetti and Goblin and all these great, Ennio Morricone, all these great composers, this is a movie that doesn't have anything like that. It's ugly. It's vile. It's disgusting, it's dirty, and it almost has that forbidden film factor to it that I really appreciate, to me, because again, I felt it had something to say that was very important. With all that being said, I do recommend this movie, but of course not for the faint of heart. With all that being said, there's another thing to this movie that makes it way more disturbing to me, knowing what you know now. And this is a situation and a topic that not generally is something I'll get into on Grande's Girl, but tonight on the show, I really would like to talk about this, and I really like to hear what the chat has to say personally, because this is a crazy story in real life that happened that, of course, is a bygone and reason because of this movie. Of course, the lead actor in the beginning, Jimmy Bennett, plays the son of Asia Argento's character, who's the writer, director, and, of course, the mother character in the movie, Sarah. Years and years later, when the kid was 17, he's 17, she reached out to him. I think she was 38. I think she had 21 years on the kid. She reached out to him and started flirting with him and saying, hey, it would be great to catch up again. Hey, it would be great to get lunch. Hey, it'd be great to hook up. And basically what happened was Asia Argento and Jimmy Bennett got together and they had sex in a hotel. And there are pictures to prove this encounter. Asia being 21 years older than this kid, it was in California, and the legal age, of course, of being, a minor to an adult is 18 years old. So he was a year younger than being, of course, an adult, and he actually sued Asia Argento because of this incident. And there was a whole thing with Anthony Bourdain, who was her boyfriend at said time. He had hired a private investigator to look at this fucking kid and check this kid out and see if there was anything they could pick up and figure out. And ended up settling for a 6-figure amount. They paid this kid. I've heard it's $250,000. I've heard other sources say it was $340,000 that they had sent over to Jimmy Bennett in order to keep him quiet, but the story still came out. So Bourdain paid him hush money, and sadly, because of his girlfriend cheating on him, sadly took his own life, Anthony Bourdain. And this was a whole scandal, a whole thing. And this was right around the Me Too movement and Harvey Weinstein. And Asia was one of the people that spoke out about being abused and, of course, assaulted by Harvey. And then you look at the other side of the coin where her own, Rose McGowan, her own friends kind of looked at it and like, hey, listen, you did something horrible too. You had sex with this kid that was underage in the state, and you fucking, inadvertently, I know it wasn't advertently, but Anthony Bourdain took his own life because of this whole incident. Just crazy, the whole thing. To me, knowing that makes this movie even more disturbing when you watch it, because you're like, holy shit, man. Like, that happened in the future here. Like, she literally groomed this kid. That is fucking insanity. And despite what I think about her, I do think she's a good actress. I do think she did a good job with the writing and direction in this movie. That's the art side of it, right? Which I know me and Mateo, we always say that we can look and appreciate the art as opposed to what the artist does in their real life every day, right? You look at, certain Victor Salva being one of them. You look at, Jesus Christ, can't think of his fucking name, but the director of Rosemary's Baby, him too. There are just so many cases where, the artist does something horrible in their real life, and then it's like, oh my God, can I watch their movies anymore? Can I really support what they do? And I get that. If somebody says that and says, hey, listen, Asia, that's disgusting, I don't want to support her. I completely understand that too. It's a crazy situation. Now, I will say, Roman Polanski, I don't know why, my brain's not working tonight. Roman Polanski, thank you. The thing with I will say, from a male perspective, Listen, Asia Argento's a beautiful lady, and like I will totally in a way play devil's advocate and say I'm sure it wasn't that traumatizing to have sex with a beautiful Asia Argento. However, the whole situation is fucking disturbing, knowing that they met at the kid was like 7. Like that's a different story, completely different situation. So I don't know. The whole thing is really crazy. It's insane, but I think this particular movie, it really is disturbing and insane itself, and I think that's why it works so well as a piece of disturbing cinema and a relic kind of to show that Aja did have the talent. It's just kind of a shame that she didn't go on to continue to try this, and instead ended up being in this whole scandal because of this movie. Really sad. Really, it's a movie where I think it's good, but the whole situation and story surrounding it, it's not so good. It's kind of, that's where it gets sticky and hairy and gross, and it's an unfortunate situation. But The Heart is Deceitful Above All Things. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on it in the comments. Let's see what y'all have to say. I think we were here. This movie also has Cole Sprouse, who was known for his role as Cody Martin, and yeah, exactly, both of them. Cole and Dylan Sprouse is on it. Cole Sprouse was in Grace Under Fire. Happy New Year, Graveyard fam. Hope you're all doing well. Grande, love the swag, buddy. Thank you, Merns. Happy New Year to you and your fam, buddy. We got Stuckus Dive 3071. Stuckus, welcome, my friend. That Kevin Spacey shit made 7 creepier. Yeah, I know what you mean. That's what I'm trying to say. Basically, it's like, in real life, if you know if these people are scumbags, it almost works if that's what they're doing in the movie, right? Like perfect example. I saw that new Superman movie. Wasn't a big fan. I felt the guy playing Lex Luthor was terrible. I was like, I like Nicholas Hoult, he's a good actor. I just felt he wasn't naturally heelish enough. Whereas Kevin Spacey in Superman Returns not a good movie either, but Kevin Spacey is perfect as Lex Luthor because you could set, like, he's a scumbag. Like he is a scumbag. And so he's basically playing himself. And it's sick to say, but it works. It's a good movie, but I'll probably never rewatch it. Yeah, I don't blame you. It's not one to be rewatched, especially now knowing what happened, right? Like Anthony Bourdain literally died over this movie being made technically over the course of a few years, but that's a direct cause of what happened. So crazy, insane, wild, just absolutely just a crazy situation. But I do think there was potential here, and I do think Aja did a pretty fucking good job as a director, as an artist, as a person. That's a different story. But The Heart is Deceitful Above All Things is one that I'd recommend. I think this is a good enough movie. I think people should see this at least once, as long as obviously you're not of the faint of heart. But let's remove that one. Let's see what we have up next on the chopping block, as there are 3 movies to go. And what are we going to get? It's going to be close, but I think we're going to get the best movie of the night here. Yes, we are. This is from writer, director, and son of David Cronenberg. This is from Brandon Cronenberg. I'm talking about Infinity Pool. Brief plot synopsis. James and M. Foster are enjoying an all-inclusive beach vacation in the fictional island of La Tolca when a fatal accident express the resort's perverse subculture of hedonistic tourism, reckless violence, and surreal horrors. Yes, Infinity Pool. This is by far the best movie we'll be discussing here tonight on Grande's Graveyard. And I mean, I'm just blown away by this movie. Like, to me, this is a really, really tremendous movie. And as far as modern day horror movies go, this would be amongst my top, like, of the decade. This would definitely be in my top 10 horror movies of the decade. I thought this was tremendous. And this wasn't Brandon's first jump into, of course, horror filmmaking. He, of course, had made Possessor before this. He had made another movie before this. But this was the one that, to me, really stood out and made me go, holy shit. I can see that this is the son of David Cronenberg. I could see Brandon inherited a lot of what that filmmaking style goes with. The body horror just not being one of them, but the psychology, the look, the vibe, the unsettlement. These are things that I feel like he totally took from David Cronenberg's earlier works, whether it be movies like Rabid or Shivers or The Dead Zone or The Fly or The Brood. The Brood is one that I see a lot of The Brood in here, that the way the atmosphere goes, the way the psychology is. And we follow a couple, of course, M and James Foster. And of course, James Foster is played by Alexander Skarsgård in the movie. And he is this guy that seems bored. He has this beautiful wife or beautiful girlfriend, wife, whatever. They're on this beautiful resort. They're eating 5-star meals, yet he seems to be bored. I've had it all, but I'm bored. I'm bored of life. I've had enough. There's no thrill anymore. I have everything. What can thrill me now? And of course, it's at this resort and on the beach where he meets Mia Goth's character in the movie. And Mia Goth is amazing as Gabby Bauer in this movie. And she kind of comes up to him and goes, "Oh, hey, I read one of your books years and years ago. This is so surreal. I'm a big fan." She kind of woos him over and excites him. You see the excitement you see the boredom of eating with his wife, and then the excitement of meeting someone that has read his work, someone pretty like Mia Goth, someone as giddy and energetic and full of life as her. And she's like, "Oh, would you like to have dinner with me and my boyfriend tonight? This would be so cool." And they sit down, they have dinner, and they start kind of hanging out with this couple over this resort, right? Just a chance meeting, or so it seems. And then, of course, they go to the beach. They're having all this cookout. He goes to take a piss, and she kind of comes over and jerks him off until he comes all over the ground. That he's just like, "Whoa, that was an amazing fucking experience." And then, she kind of walks back. He looks like he's on cloud nine. They're driving back and unfortunately hit somebody and kill them. They hit somebody with the car while he's driving, James's character, and they're all shocked and they're all worried and disturbed. And Mia Goth says, "We're not calling the police. We're not doing anything. You got to keep in mind, we're in a third world country. This is not as simple as, oh, call the police and tell them it was an accident. This could be death. This could be the death penalty. We need to get the fuck out of Dodge." So they all get back in the car, they drive off, and the next morning they're interrogated and brought in by this government of this country, and they are told of a process in order to get out of the situation and not be killed by the person who they killed's youngest, right? The whole idea is you get killed in this country by the person you killed's youngest. If they have a son, they have to come and have the son execute you. But they have a pay to get out clause where they will create a clone of you in this sort of contraption, in this sort of infinity pool, where they'll create an exact replica of you, and that could be the person sent in to be executed if you pay the fee. So these people, because they're so well off, they're like, yeah, we'll pay it. Don't worry about it. Like, we don't want to die. They pay to have themselves cloned, and they have to watch as their clones are murdered in front of them. And this is all disturbing and stuff. And the guy, James, his wife, Em, she wants to go the next day. We got to get the fuck out of here. This is crazy. These people are Looney Tunes. Let's get the hell out of Dodge. But James isn't having that. James is excited by this. He was disturbed at first, but he sort of starts to like the danger. He sort of likes the fear. It's almost like a moth to a flame. The flame will burn you, but you cannot help yourself but to go towards it from the psychology standpoint of it. And like I said, I think this is a great movie from a lot of different aspects. It does have the body horror. It does have the sexual horror. It does have a lot of different things going on. But to me, what draws me to it as a horror film fan is the psychology of it, the psychological horror in this movie of a man who's bored, has everything, has the world at his fingertips, a beautiful woman in bed with him, but it's not enough to some people. And this guy starts to go against his better judgment and start hanging out with Mia Goth and all of her rich, snobby friends. And they do all these wild things. They hold up these people. They hold guns to their head that they don't know, and they force them to do all these horrible, degrading things. There's a scene where they all have this wild, drug-induced psychedelic orgy in the movie, and you do see plenty of nudity in this movie. If you're wondering, there is definitely no prudeness in this. This is a wild, really, really wild picture when it comes to the nudity and all that stuff. Nothing is really held back. And then it all comes to the point where this guy's starting to think he's hot shit. There's a point in the beginning where they're having breakfast, and he's with all these rich people, and he takes these maraschino cherries and he's spitting out the pits on random people, and they're laughing and patting him on the back, and he's having a good time. He's really relishing in being an asshole and being a douchebag and being a part of this group that's taken him in. And then, of course, it all seems hunky-dory. It all seems like it's well and good. I'm fucking Mia Goth. I'm a part of this crew. I'm untouchable. I'm unstoppable. They didn't start doing these crimes, getting caught, and just for the thrill of seeing their clones killed, until it reaches the ultimate breaking point. There's one night where Mia Goth says, "Hey, we want you to beat the shit out of this guy. We got this guy. We captured him. We got a bag over his head. We want to see you, James. We want to see you beat the shit out of him." So he goes up to him, and he's beating the hell out of him, kicking them, and they're cheering him on and clapping and drinking and having a grand old time. He's beating this thing near to death until the bag is removed and he sees that it's a clone of himself. And to me, what you get in that moment is the brilliant psychology and writing of Brandon Cronenberg. And I think a big way of what he took from his father's work is the psychology of a man that finally realized that I'm the jerk at the table. I'm the dummy. There's a whole old saying that if you can't spot the dummy at the dinner table in an hour, odds are the dummy is you. That's a true statement, and that's what this movie is showing. It's in that moment where he realizes, oh my God, they're not cheering with me. They're not laughing with me. They're against me. They're fucking making fun of me. I am a puppet to these people. I'm putting on a show, and they're the ones pulling the marionette strings, right? I'm just a puppet to these people. And it's when he realizes it, better judgment kicks in, and I have to get the fuck out of here. And he's terrified and disturbed and freaked out, and he tries to run away. And of course, Mia Goth tracks him down, and you get the infamous James. She pulls over the bus. James. She's screaming, and that's become like an iconic thing in this movie. Is Mia Goth screaming, James, come out to play, you worthless sack of shit. And she's pointing the gun at the fucking thing, and he kind of comes out, and they humiliate him. They make him walk in front of the car, and she just undresses him. I had to pretend that I liked you. I had to pretend that I read your silly old book from 7 years ago that nobody gives a shit about. I had to pretend to be interested in you. And she just verbally just destroying this fucking guy to the point where you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. And she tells you the whole plan. Oh, we had planned to set you up to get you into trouble, but you're actually such a fucking dipshit loser that you hit somebody and got into trouble yourself. You're such a fool that you did have to work for us. And there's that whole revelation. Amazing. To me, that is amazing stuff. I love how that all plays out. And then, of course, they kind of get him back, and you get the ending where he's at the airport. All these people seem to go their other ways, right? There are all these people that go there, try to find the sucker at the table, the dummy at the table, if you will, and humiliate them. And then they all go their separate ways. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm back to work on Monday. Oh, I'm going to go here on this day. They go to this place every year and just find somebody to, make their sucker, if you will. And of course, in this case, it's James's character, and they all kind of fly home where he is left at the resort with a ticket to go home. He's going to go, and he kind of looks and doesn't. He goes instead and sits out in the resort as the rain is coming on him, and the movie kind of comes to a close. And I think there's a lot of different ways we can interpret that ending. Now, I, of course, have my own theories, but I'm sure you, of course, have yours. To me personally, I think this is a man that realized no matter how or what I do when I fly home, right? If I make amends with my wife that left me here, rightfully so. She made the right choice. She made the logical choice. If I go home, if I go back to everyday life, if I go back to having it all, right, in the quotations, because having it all isn't necessarily something that means happiness. If I have it all, whatever. Instead, he sits there in the rain because it's never going to be the same again. It's all been destroyed. It's all been humiliated. And it's all been kind of thrown back in his face as this guy who immediately thought, I'm hot shit. I'm part of this group, when he realized I'm the sucker. And he sits in the rain, ponders that as we fade to black. To me, great psychological horror and a great idea, great creative idea of having these, people that can create clones and watching their clones be executed instead for the hefty fee of the government. That's creative as hell. And that to me is so, so good, man. It just feels very much like his father and something his dad would do. And I think Brandon is really, really talented. Now, in interviews, he comes off very kind of quiet, like reserved guy, and so is David Cronenberg, to be honest. Granted, David's a little bit more of an interesting and better interview than Brandon, but I think Brandon Cronenberg is the future of the horror business. I hope he sticks with horror because he's super talented. Like I said, some great visuals in this, great body horror, the psychology, the story that it tells of a man that's at the top of the world at the beginning and the sunny resort to the end where he's at the resort, it's raining, it's gray, and his life is basically over. To me, that's a great, great, great story of riches to rags, if you will. Really, really good stuff. To me, Infinity Pool, it's a top 10 horror movie the past 5 years. Like I think that much of this movie, and I think that everyone should go and support a movie like this. Now, I know it's not for everybody. There are a lot of people that told me, they're like, that movie fucking sucks. Like I had a few people go out of their way when I was saying I was watching it, tell me this movie's bad. Buddy, you don't have a fucking clue. If you watch The Hills Have Eyes and Staunton Hill, like this literally is Citizen Kane compared to movies like that. So that's just my opinion. But I really like Infinity Pool. We'd love to know what you guys have to say. if you've ever seen the movie Crimes of Future, that was David Cronenberg's return to the body horror genre. I didn't watch that. I also know he made one this past year of Vincent Castle that my buddy, who's the biggest Cronenberg fan I know, and he was like, oh man, he's lost. Like, he told me it was not a good movie. I forget the name of the new one with Vincent Castle, but I haven't seen either one of those, to be perfectly honest. I'm a big, like, the beginning of Cronenberg I really love. You know, once you got after Dead Ringers, you get stuff like Naked Lunch, you get the stuff like Spider, movies like that. That's when it was very hit or miss. Existenz is a good one. There's good, there's bad. History of Violence is the famous one. But, like, I don't know. For me with Cronenberg, I always look back at those original few movies he made. Like, I'm the biggest fan of The Brood and Videodrome. Long Live the New Flesh. Like, you could totally, you could do Videodrome and Infinity Pool as a double feature. And I think it would be amazing because, again, you have all the same elements. You have the body horror. You have the psychology of a man and the whole ideology of television. And when does it become too far? And this woman who pushes into the Videodrome wants to be a part of it, of course played by Blondie herself. She wants to be a part of it. She's the moth to the flame in that movie. Just, I don't know, really, really good parallels to me. And Infinity Pool is just, to me, why I love the genre. It's a really good movie. Dr. Howdy 6664, sorry I'm late. I've smoked and went into the quantum realm. Hey, buddy, that's okay. I'm happy to have you in the house, man. I'm always happy to see you. Hope you and the family had a happy new year. I love Infinity Pool so much. That seizure-inducing orgy is crazy. It really is. It's so fucking bad shit, but I think, again, all for a reason. And there's also the whole controversy. I know there are releases where this movie is cut versus uncut. I have the uncut version. Mearns was the one that told me about that when the original release came out. I brought the cut version, and then I had to go out and rebuy the version with all the sex scenes in it, because there's a, I guess, neutered down version where the sex scenes are kind of, unfortunately, cut away or missing entirely. So I wanted to see the movie as presented, as meant to be, and that uncut version is absolutely wild. I think this is a stellar film. Like, I totally think this is where the direction of the horror genre should be going. Like, I'm all for Brandon Cronenberg and whatever he does next, because I think the guy's really talented. Possessor was another movie I really, really liked. Ben Grimm up all night. James, she says something to him like, get that fleshy pack of sack out the car. Like, it's so fucking funny, man. Mia Goth, and I didn't talk enough about Mia Goth. I'll talk a little bit about her performance before we move on. She's fucking great. Like, I really, I know people shit on me because I don't really like the Ty West trilogy that she did, right? I don't like X. I don't like Maxine. She's good as Pearl in Pearl. I think she's great. I don't think the movie is very good, but she's really good in that. For me, for my money, like, she is a great acting talent. Like, I think Mia Goth is great. I just think it's a certain thing where a lot of the movies she picks to do aren't my favorite. Like, I didn't see the new Frankenstein from Guillermo, but, like, I heard more bad than positive. And, like, I like her. I would watch it for her. But, like, at the same time, get the fuck away from Ty West. Like, Ty West it's the opposite of where the genre should be going. Like, that guy is just so fucking clueless to me as a filmmaker, and I don't like any single movie he's ever made. Cabin Fever 2 fucking sucks. The Roost fucking sucks. His Death Note that was his buddy Adam Wingard. That movie fucking sucks. Just the guy just sucks to me, and I think she should get away from him. Get with somebody like this. Get it with a Brandon Cronenberg. To me, this is her best performance. I love her as Gabby Bauer. James, she plays it so well. It's such a great dual performance, because the first part she has to play it likable and inviting and opening, right? Like, oh, come to me, I'm this great, flashy, beautiful new thing in your life. And she takes him in with open arms and jacks him off on the beach. That's the whole kind of encounter, until you realize she's oh so bad. She's bad news. She set him up from the beginning. And once she turns and you see the true colors, it's just an amazing performance from Mia Goth. I love her performance in this. She is tremendous in this. And I think she could absolutely be one of the best actresses of our time, but man, she's got to pick better movies. Like, her agent, I would fire her agent if I was her. I would be like, listen, get the fuck out of here. You're not my agent anymore. Like, no way. We got Dirk, Subjective Perspective Collective. He will be in the show. I will be on his show this coming Saturday. We will review the Three Animals trilogy, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Four Flies on Gray Velvet, and The Cat O' Nine Tails. Very excited to work with he and Darren. Great, great guys. I've had them on the Graveyard before. To answer your question, you're not going to like this. House of the Devil is a overrated piece of shit. Boring. Let's watch Jocelyn Donahue play pool. Let's watch Jocelyn Donahue order a pizza. Let's watch Jocelyn Donahue watching television. Let's fucking watch Tom Noonan be a fucking weirdo, where from the first 2 2 seconds of meeting of these fucking weirdo, yet she decides, no, I need babysitting money. I hate that movie. It is a monstrous piece of shit, and I will never understand why it's so loved. Unfortunate, but that's my answer to that. So that's all I got to say about that. That's a Forrest Gump, but that's my speech at the war at Vietnam. That's me at the podium. That's just me burying that movie. But a movie that I do think is well done and really good is Infinity Pool from 2023. Really, really good modern day horror movie. As it's time. You're straight gutted, but I respect your opinion. No, yeah, I'm sorry if I gutted. I feel terrible. I'm sorry, but yeah. So my opinions are so strong sometimes, and people are just like, fuck that guy. But let's spin the wheel. Let's make a goddamn deal. We got 2 left to go. Will it be Lamberto Bava or will it be George C. Romero? It looks like Lamberto. Yes. From 1980, the winner of the spin the wheel, make the deal this turn is none other than Macabre, a.k.a. in the, of course, English language, Macabre. Brief plot synopsis. A middle-aged woman traumatized from the death of her adulterous lover moves into a room at the New Orleans boarding house where the blind landlord becomes suspicious to her activities of continuing her affair with her dead lover. Yes, Macabre. Now, man, this is another really wild movie. And of course, from the son of Mario Bava, one of my all-time favorite filmmakers. I love Mario Bava. And Lamberto was a guy that worked a lot as an assistant director to his father, right? He worked in Planet of the Vampires as assistant director, Kill Baby Kill, all these movies that Mario had made in the mid-60s and then onward, right? He had also worked with Dario on movies as an assistant director. Inferno comes out the same year. He assistant directed on that. And he even worked with guys like Ruggero Deodato. He was assistant director on Cannibal Holocaust. The guy that had been around the corner, had got his experience, and of course, the famous story goes that Pupi Avati, who you may remember from directing a little giallo classic called The House with the Laughing Windows, Pupi Avati was the one that called Lamberto Bava in, and Lamberto thought he was getting another assistant director job. And instead, Pupi was saying, hey, listen, there's a crazy real story that we want to adapt into an Italian horror film. Would you want to take a shot at taking your directorial debut and giving a crack at it? And fucking Lamberto was on cloud 9. Absolutely. You want me to be the director, not the assistant. You want me to actually be the guy. I'm honored. So he took the director's chair for the very first time on his own and makes this little movie called Macabre. And the based on a true story is where we get the craziness of this movie. The crazy true story was it was a woman in New Orleans who lost her lover, right? Her lover was killed in a car wreck. And the infamous real story was she took his head from the car wreck and kept it in her freezer and had sexual intercourse with the fucking head because she couldn't get over losing this guy. And that was the real life story that really happened. And hence why the movie in the picture itself takes place in New Orleans, even though most of it was shot in Europe. A lot of the exteriors are Mardi Gras, right? Are Bourbon Street, are New Orleans. And if you're from that area, you'll love the scope of the exteriors of this movie because there's a lot to love about New Orleans. And even the way he lights it, it's very New Orleans Saints. Like if you look at the interiors of the house, I just adore the interior lighting and stuff like that. They did a great job at making this feel as New Orleans as possible, despite it being in Italy. And the story to me is great because it's a very fucked up and disturbing look at the horrors of grief and the horrors of losing something that you can no longer get over, right? Of course, we watch this woman who, of course, is played by Bernice Stegers, who does a really good job in this lead performance as Jane Baker. And she is, of course, committing adultery on her husband. She has 2 children, an older daughter and a younger baby boy. And she leaves the house and you could see the daughter's onto her. She's like, man, I see what you're doing here. I get the feeling that you're cheating on dad. I don't like this. She's getting all kind of upset about it. And she's kind of watching her through a side eye. She goes out to have sex with her adulterer and in the middle of this, the daughter decides the only way to stop this, the only way to break this up is to drown her baby brother. And we watch this in graphic detail as this woman drowns her fucking baby brother in the fucking bathtub. Absolutely fucking crazy where you're like, oh my God, that is disturbing as hell. And they intersplice it with this woman having sex with her fucking adult. It's like this woman having sex and then kid getting drowned. Woman having sex, kid getting drowned. It's like, what the fuck, Lamberto? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's like, all right, this is good. And then, oh my God, this is not good. Like, it's the absolute polar opposites, how they was edited together where you're just like, Jesus Christ, this is fucking crazy. They call her on the phone. They phone her. Hey, listen, the kid's dead. He drowned. And she makes it look like an accident, right? The sister makes it look like an accident. So she rushes out. Oh, my God, I have to get home. I have to get home. The adulter's like, calm down. I'll drive. You shouldn't be driving. She's crying and hysterical and flailing. She's driving along. Boom, they hit a guardrail and her fucking lover gets his head decapitated. And there's a great shot of the blood all over her face and she's screaming in terror as we fade to 1 year later. It's 1 year later, 1 year removed. Her son has been killed. And even though she thinks it was an accident, her lover has been decapitated in this terrible crash. And she moves into this house in New Orleans that's run by a blind man who's played by Stanko Molnar, who was this great Yugoslavic actor, had these really, really great eyes, like really like actor. He looked like an actor. He really, really did. Like this guy does a great job playing this blind man who is suspicious, but yet at the same time kind of nurturing and, hey, we'll get through this. You'll get through this. Like just one day at a time type of character. But we watch as this woman moves into the house and you see that she's slowly but surely, trying to get through the grieving process. But at the same time, every night you kind of hear her masturbating. We hear her pleasuring herself sexually. And the blind man is trying to figure out what's going on. What the hell is happening here? What's happening behind closed doors here? And he's trying to figure it out. Whereas, we see this woman, but we don't know exactly what's happening either. But the whole mystery lies within the freezer, this locked freezer that she never opens. And he's trying to kind of figure out how to get it or pick the lock. And there's these great tenseful moments where she'll be out for the day and he's trying to kind of figure out the house and getting into this freezer and figure out what's going on. That stuff's fantastic. It almost feels and reminds me of Misery, which come out a decade later, like once Kathy Bates leaves the house and James Caan's kind of looking throughout the house. It has that similar tension where you're like, oh my God, this guy gets caught. He's so fucked. But like you want to see what's going on. You want to know, what is in that freezer. And obviously as the movie kind of plays out, there's some twists, there's some turns, but the ultimate unveil is really what we're here for. And it is the unveil of her dead lover's head being in the freezer. We find it in the freezer. He finds it and he's like, oh my fucking God, this is so sick. What a crazy bitch. The daughter in turn comes over for dinner and she finds it and she kind of gets in the mother's face. Like, you think I'm crazy for murdering our little brother? She's like, you're the fucking crazy one keeping severed heads of your fucking lovers in the freezer and fucking it. She goes, you're the crazy one. There's a great altercation between the two of them. And she goes and kills her own daughter. Like, oh my God, like, it's just so fucking crazy. This movie just escalates, just never, ever settles in its escalation. It is absolutely crazy from beginning, middle to end. And of course, to me, what absolutely always stood out the most was the final jump of this movie. Spoilers, big spoilers, but I mean, this is a movie where it's all about the ride. You'll enjoy it no matter what, or isn't coming. The fucking head, right? The head is in the bed and head's in bed, baby. The woman is dead now, and the blind guy kind of walks over. He's feeling his way over to the bed and grabs the head, and it jumps up and bites him in the neck. And we end it, and we fade to credits. We have this fucking excerpt of, it was never explained how the blind man died. It's still a mystery, and happily ever after. And the movie kind of ends, and you're just like, oh my God, what the fuck happened? Like, was this head alive? And I think, again, it poses a very interesting psychological question. And that psychological question is the poor grief of a woman that lost everything within a few minutes of each other, right? She lost her baby boy. She lost her lover boy. She lost all these things within minutes of each other. Is the grief of a woman that cannot let it go, the psychology of a woman that has truly lost her mind, is that something that can bring a decapitated head back to life? Is it the memory? Is it the hope? Is it the grieving process? Is it the craziness and insanity that keeps this head alive and pleasuring her and also killing the blind man to boot? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that question is. But again, we talked about Mario Bava a few weeks ago, movies like Lisa and the Devil, and the psychology there and all the questions that it has there. I look at Macabre as this very similar kind of tale, and it has a lot to ask at the end. What the fuck happened? Is there a supernatural element to this? Is there not? What happened? What's going on? And we never get the answer. It's really all up to us. And to me, I appreciate that from Lamberto, taking that element of his father's work, because that's not what his father was known for. His father was the master of Gothic horror. He was the innovator of the giallo with the, of course, The Girl Knew Too Much and Blood and Black Lace. He was known for these colors, right? In movies like Black Lace and movies like Black Sabbath. Mario was just a master at visuals. And it's funny, if you look at Dario's work, it seems like he was much more of a protege of what Mario was doing as opposed to his own son, as opposed to Lamberto. Lamberto kind of said, hey, listen, I'm going to go my own way with this. And there is still a style to this. There is still a vibe, but I don't really necessarily see a situation of I'm trying to be daddy. No, it really feels like Lamberto wanted to be himself. And I think as movies went on with his career, A Blade in the Dark, Demons is pretty much everybody's favorite. He made movies that he wanted to make and were very similar yet different at the same time from what his dad was trying to do, right? These movies had much more energy. They were much more lively. They were much more crazy. And don't get me wrong, he did with Mask of Satan in 1989. He did kind of pay homage back to his dad there with Black Sunday in a movie with Barbara Steele, right? There were moments, there were times where he totally homaged and paid homage and tribute, and you could see that he was Mario's son. However, I think Macabre is a prime example of a filmmaker that, hey, I learned all this stuff on set. I learned from not just my father, Mario, but from Dario Argento, from Ruggero Deodato, from these other guys that really showed me the ropes and really showed me the way, let me be my own thing. And I think that's what a lot of these filmmakers should try out to do. If you take something from your father's work, yeah, that's great. But also don't forget to be yourself. Don't forget to make the movie that you want to make, not just a cut, copy, paste of what my dad used to do. And I think Lamberto was a guy that did that here. The movie, unfortunately, wasn't successful at the box office, so he went back to assistant directing until he got A Blade in the Dark. And then, of course, it wasn't until Demons where that was the movie that really, it was like, okay, Lamberto has arrived. So, I don't know. I love Macabre. I think it's a really good movie. It's really fucking thought-provoking when you think about it. And to me, it's just absolutely batshit crazy. Like the whole idea of this woman hiding this fucking head in the freezer to have sex with every night is just as wild as it fucking gets. I love Macabre, one of my faves. Absolutely highly recommend this one, Macabre from 1980. Let's see what you guys have to say, though, in the comments, because, of course, I'm always loving to hear your thoughts. Lamberto Bava, hell yeah, man. Bava, Macabre, I look at as a strange sexual voodoo tale. It is, totally is. The voodoo element, yeah, that's something. That could be a way to interpret it. Mario got to see this right before he passed and gave Lamberto a good nod. Isn't that funny? Like, imagine you're on your deathbed and you watch Macabre. Like, but again, I'm sure he was really proud of his son. Like, I would have been really proud too. It's such a unique movie. There's nothing really quite like Macabre. Like, it's a one of one, really. Frozen Terror was one of the alternate titles. That's right. If you look close, she has a voodoo shrine in her room. Okay, so maybe she the head was brought to life. I never noticed that. That's very interesting. And of course, the Mardi Gras setting, that makes a perfect way. So maybe that was what was going on there. See, Dirk's got the knowledge, my friend. And yeah, no, maybe that is just what they were going for. But I love this movie. I think Macabre is a damn good one. Crazy sexuality horror, crazy grief, and a movie that I think is a lot deeper than people give it kind of credit for. So I love Macabre, one I highly recommend if you haven't seen it already. And that brings us to the last movie of the evening, and we can remove this as, we could do the victory lap, if you will. But unfortunately, it's more of a defeat lap, if you will, because the last movie on the list, oh boy, here it is, from 2009, the last movie on the list, directed by George C. Romero, not to be confused with George A. Romero. This was Cameron, his son, who went under the name of Cameron Romero for this, but he's really George C. Romero. That's his full name. Staunton Hill. Staunton Hill, the worst movie we're going to be talking about here tonight. Brief plot synopsis. It's the fall of 1969, and the winds of change are blowing across America. But on a remote family farm in the hills of Virginia, a storm of evil has been brewing for years. Now, for a group of young people hitchhiking to a rally in D.C., a detour to the nightmarish homestead of Staunton's will rip apart their young lives forever. A grisly secret is waiting. The raw terror is growing, and the clan's brutal harvest is about to begin. Wow. You got to understand, I love George Romero. Like Dawn of the Dead is my favorite movie ever made. Martin is in my top 10 horror movies ever made. Day of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Creepshow. I love The Crazies. I love fucking so many George Romero movies, and I think he's one of the all-time greatest filmmakers that ever lived. And arguably, I think there are categories where George was the greatest ever. Editing, George the greatest editor that ever lived. I think he was one of the greatest writers that ever lived. He was a great creative. He had a great voice, and no matter if it was horror or if it was something that was horror adjacent, right? Movies like Jack's Wife, a.k.a. Hungry Wives, a.k.a. Season of the Witch, Witch, right? We have the whole movie there where it's talking about the this middle-aged woman that's not looked upon or appreciated, and it has that horror adjacent element of the witchcraft in there. This is a guy that was, to me, just one of the all-time great ever. We look at his son, George C. Romero, and I don't see any of that here. I really don't. I don't see, and I'm not trying to be mean, but I may come off as mean, so I'm sorry if I do. And I preface by saying I don't mean to be an asshole, but you can clearly tell that his son doesn't have it. His son did not inherit the directing talent, and he especially didn't fucking inherit the writing talent. This is basically a horrendously bad Texas Chainsaw 2003 ripoff. This is more like a Marcus Nispel film than it is a George A. Romero film. And like I said before, and I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, right? Just with Lamberto Bava, try to be yourself. Try to move away from what your parents have done. Take some things, right? There's no problem in paying homage in some elements, but you want to be as individualized as possible. I think that's the goal here, right? Like Asia, you look at, she made a good movie. It's very different from any Argento film. There's no Argento film like The Heart is Deceitful Above All Things. There's no Mario Bava film like Macabre. There are elements, but not completely like it. Whereas this, you can argue, George never made a fucking bad Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, so there's that element of it. It's not like a lot of George's movies. However, in this case, it feels like it's just borrowing from a different template. And instead of being himself, this feels very much like a direct-to-DVD, let's rip off Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003. And so much so that we'll take one of the actors. Nancy Lampkin is one of the actors in this, and she also played the tea lady. May she rest in peace. She's dead in real life, but she played the tea lady in the terrible 2003 Texas Chainsaw. Oh, my, the big fat tea lady. She's the lead heel in this. She's like the mother character of these people that live in this place. And basically, the movie opens up where we're at this kind of medical procedure place, and they're doing a surgery on this person, and we don't know what exactly is going on. It's very incoherent. And then we follow these kids who are traveling to this rally in DC. Their car breaks down. They meet this one guy who says, oh, hey, listen, you can hop in the car with me. His fucking car breaks down, and they decide, let's just walk in these fucking hills until we can find shelter. It starts to rain. They hide out in a farmhouse. I guess maybe that was the nod to Night of Living Dead. I don't know. There is a mention of Night of Living Dead in the movie. Somebody mentions, oh, hey, that movie Night of Living Dead. It's a very obnoxious, okay, I got it. Your dad made Night of Living Dead. Let's move on. They go into this farmhouse, and for whatever reason, Nancy Lampkin, her son, who's basically like Leatherface, he doesn't wear the mask, but he's this big, dumb, guy that has a lot of meat on him, and he's a killer. And then the grandmother's in the wheelchair. It's basically the grandpa character from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? She can't do anything but just roll around in a fucking wheelchair. And it's just these three, and basically the movie ensues where there's tension between them, and one by one, these kids are getting picked off, just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 03. I will give it one positive. There's tremendous practical gore in this movie. I think the gore element in it is great. And if you like gore reels, you will like the gore reel here. It is very, very gory, and the practical gore looks great. I will say that. That is the only positive I'll give the Staunton Hill. Everything else fucking sucks, though. I mean, everything. I mean, I truly think this is worse than Texas Chainsaw Massacre 03. I don't mind the beginning. I think the beginning is a lot better than the 03 remake. This makes the 03 remake look passable, and I hate that 03 remake. This makes the 2022 movie look better. That, I'm not even kidding you. That's how bad this movie is. This sucks on every level. This is a movie where it came out during that time of the 8 films to die for, which I've covered a lot of those on the show. This wouldn't even have cut for that. And you have George Romero's son's name on it. You had George Romero's expert, and now this is horror, right? George put the expert out for his son, and you just know that probably he didn't mean that. No, I know that's his son, and I know that obviously there was a lot of love and care that went into something like that. But at the same time, I'm sure if this was directed by anybody else, you never hear George Romero saying that, and I'm saying that honestly. This could have been directed by anybody. There was no flair. There was no style. There was no great character moments. There was all these kids that just have really no personality to them. And to me, that's the thing with George Romero writing. it's generally very interesting. The characters in Dawn of the Dead, I love how you get to know all of them. You know all their backstories. I could run like tonight. And, the whole thing of Day of the Dead. And where will you go, Captain? And the whole, I say we blow the piss out of all of them. And then the whole, we just want to be soaking up some sunshine. There's always these different perspectives on the same problem. This movie doesn't have any of that. It's just a bunch of dumb, one-dimensional characters getting killed off brutally. One lady gets strapped to the chair. She gets cut in her leg, cut in her face, drained of her blood out, and we watch every bit of it. Okay, yeah, it's really good gore, but didn't care about the character, didn't really be very consequential to the plot or the movie or the story they were telling. We do, like I said, we keep going back and forth between the surgical procedure that we see at the beginning, but we never get an answer as to what that is. Were these people dealing in the black market? Were these people providing organs for people that sell organs in the black market? Possibly. It's never fucking said. And you, by the end of this movie, you don't care. This is 90 minutes long, and it is absolutely, it feels like it is 4 hours long. It is the most check your watch movie that there's ever been. It absolutely sucks. I hate every single minute of Staunton Hill. It's just such a weak effort, in my opinion, from a guy that he did try filmmaking after this, right? Cameron / George C. Romero. He did try to make movies after this, but unfortunately, didn't seem like he was cut out for it. And then by the time that he reached, I think, his third or fourth film, he must have given up and then began to open up a restaurant. He now opens up a restaurant. If you live in the Kentucky area, I believe you can go and eat at George C. Romero's restaurant. He has a restaurant that's now open in Kentucky. So that's cool. I mean, listen, this is a prime example to me that the filmmaking business is not for everybody, despite who your parent is, right? And this is an unfortunate thing, right? And I mean, I love George Romero, like I said, and I would have loved to have seen his son succeed and become the next George Romero or a protege of, right? Another Lamberto, another, Asia, something like that. And you can clearly tell it's just not there. The technique, the ability, the style, the direction, the technical, none of that stuff's there. It really isn't. And the storytelling and the voice is the main thing I synonymize with George Romero. It's just not here. And to me, this is a prime example of just generic horror that has no heart to it, no oomph to it, and no soul to it. This is a really bad movie, and it's a shame, but I am happy that George eventually did find his niche, and apparently the restaurant's been open for quite a few years, so hopefully the restaurant is really good, and he found his niche there. I was joking with I forget who I was joking with. Maybe AJ. I was joking with AJ, and I was like, this is probably how this went. I imitated, hey, Dad, check out my movie, Staunton Hill. And George Romero sitting there, oh, great, son. 90 minutes later, George Romero, hey, son, yeah, that was something. Have you ever thought about opening in a restaurant? And I've made that joke, which is, I guess, in bad taste. But, yeah, no, it's kind of how I feel when I watch this. It's just you watch and you're just like, yeah, this is just not it, man, unfortunately. So I think Staunton Hill is a big piece of monkey shit. To me, it's an absolute example of generic horror at its worst because, again, no personality, right? We look at the exploitation element, like I said before, of the original Hills Have Eyes. Something like that even would have worked here. Give these family members some kind of personality, some kind of moment at the table, right? It's not like American Gothic, the Clean Plate Club. The family element would have helped this thing so much. Okay, this is a crazy family. No, just everybody's one note. Nancy Lampkin blows off this one guy's leg with a shotgun. You're gonna need some help, hun. Just nothing. And it doesn't even have an ending, really. It just kind of ends where the Leatherface guy is carrying off one of the victims and we don't see what happens. The movie just goes back to that fucking surgery scene where we get the idea that they've been dealing in the black market, and the movie ends you don't even have the final girl killing them all and escaping, or the final girl getting killed. Nothing. Just a bad TCM wannabe, and it's a shame because coming from a kid that had a father that was so creative and innovative and had a voice of a generation, it seemed like he played it oh so generically, and that's what's frustrating about Staunton Hill. So I hate Staunton Hill. Easily, without a doubt, the movie that was the worst one for the show this week. I hated this movie from top to bottom. Would not recommend it to my worst enemy. And yeah, unfortunately, that is how we end on a bitter note of the Children of the Masters of Horror episode of Grande. Let's see what you guys have to say in the comments, though, and then We can go here. By the way, Happy New Year. Absolutely. Happy New Year to you, too. I dig The Season of the Witch. I know a lot of folks shit on it. I dig it, too. I think it's a really good movie. It's very avant-garde, but it's very, very well done. A Romero movie. Heart is Deceitful is Aja's best performance. I think Stenhall is her best performance, but Heart is Deceitful Above All Things is a really good movie, too. And I did discuss that one before you came into the chat tonight. Miss C is here. Ciao, Grande, Graveyardi, and friends. Happy New Year, my friend. TCM3 is a Abercrombie commercial and a shit stank nightmare. You'd rather die than be in pure disrespect to Huber. I agree. I know that the cinematographer, everyone always points to Daniel Pearl. He was the cinematographer of both movies, and I know he defends the remake. That remake is terrible. Like, that is, to me, one of the bottom 5 remakes that there's ever been. I know it's beloved, and I know it kicked off the remake train of Platinum Dunes and all of these people, and, like, I get that, and I respect it if people really like those movies. I don't. Like, I think the beginning is much more a more faithful remake to the original than the fucking 03 remake. And that's not to say the beginning is a masterpiece, but it's definitely better than that 03 movie. That 03 movie is terrible. Let's have 80 family members. You don't know any of their fucking names, any of their motivation. You have all these terrible fucking actors that are just dressed to look 70s, Abercrombie and Fitch models. Horrible. Just, it's a terrible movie. Let's watch Jessica Biel run around with a fucking white t-shirt soaking wet. That's the best part of the movie. Arlie Ermey trying to recapture the Full Metal Jacket glory. I hate the 03 Chainsaw is an absolute worthless fucking movie. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And this is, if you want to see something even worse than that in the same template palette, watch Staunton Hill and you will absolutely regret it. But yeah, no, that is neither here nor there. But this was a fun episode. I had a good time, and I guess we can reflect quick before we go. It's funny. Of these 5 movies, all 5 of them, in a way, kind of push the envelope, right? They're all fucked up, for lack of a better term, right? The Heart is Deceitful Above All Things is by far the craziest. Macabre is a fucking insane movie. Hills of Ice Part 2 has cannibal mutant human breeding in it. And then, of course, you look at the other 2 movies as well. Infinity Pool, this crazy thing with cloning and all of that stuff. And, I mean, it's wild. All 5 of these movies seem to have pushed the envelope and went for a more shocking direction. And I wonder if that is a mentality when you're getting into this, if your father or mother or whatever your famous relative is, was successful in that field. I do wonder that. And that's something I've wondered throughout the week. Is that something that you go into where not only do I have to individualize this, not only do I have to pay homage, but I have to be shocking and disturbing too. And all of these seem to go that route. Now, granted, Brandon was a different story because this was Brandon's 3rd movie. But Lamberto, this was his first shot. This was Asia Argento, it was only her 2nd movie. George C Romero, this was his 1st movie. Jonathan Craven, that was his 2nd movie. So a lot of them, it was towards the beginning, and part of you wonders, did they try to be shocking just to make some noise and not get lost in the shuffle like so many movies do? That's a question that you can only really have answered by them, right? And I guess every individual would have their own individual answer. But I do wonder that from a watcher/viewer perspective, do these people want to try to push the envelope, whereas instead maybe sometimes they could just kind of pull back the reins, hit the brakes, and be themselves, and that'll be enough? Interesting question to pose. I mean, if you guys in the chat want to answer, that's totally cool. But, something I totally wondered as I watched these movies this week, because it seemed like all of them were like, let's go shocking, let's go crazy, and some of those worked and some of those, unfortunately, did not. So you have a mixed bag. Of these episodes, of these movies, I love, of course, Infinity Pool is the best. Then I would say Macabre, probably. I love Macabre. No, actually, Heart is Deceitful Above All Things, then Macabre, then Hills of Ice 2, and then 60,000 feet of shit, and then Staunton Hill. That would be how I'd rank these 5 movies. But this was a fun episode of Grande's Graveyard, a fun little idea. Something I wouldn't be opposed to doing more of, right? I know Cody Carpenter never directed anything, but we could cover things where Cody Carpenter did the music. I know there's other sons or daughters of masters, right? There's Tina Romero, who just did the Queens of the Dead movie that literally just came out just a couple months ago. You could talk about that. David Lynch, his daughter, right? Jennifer Lynch. You could, granted, he's not a master of horror. He's more of just a master of cinema overall, but still, you could totally kind of take a look at all these kind of people that were the spawn of these quote unquote cinema masters. So that's pretty cool. How did I forget to tune in? No worries, my friend, no worries, but we're wrapping up. So everybody, I just want to say thank you so much. Next week on Grande's Graveyard, it is Box Office Bombs, and the Wheel of Torture will be back. I should be in Grande's Graveyard, not Grande's Mausoleum here. Sorry about that, but it does happen, unfortunately. Hello, Grande and the lovely Graveyardians. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But everybody, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. This was a lot of fun. Comment down below. Let me know if you're catching the replay of which one of these was your favorite, your least favorite, and, all that good stuff in between. So everybody, thank you so much, and we will catch you next time only on the Graveyard. Too sweet, peace. Good night, everybody.